Five.
Okay, it says that we are live, but usually there's a little bit of a delay. So has it gone?
Yes. Not okay. Yeah, we are. We are live. Hello, everyone.
Everybody. So, welcome back to Taji's World of Books. I'm so happy that you guys are here with us today. And we have our favorite co host. Introduce yourself,
Hi,
Charles.
everyone. My name is Charles. My channel is Books on Stereo, and we're back. We have other episodes for Addicted to Audio that are both sprinkled on our channel. The last one was with Sierra Simone on your channel.
That's right. That's
Went
right.
the right way. So go check that out and go check out our past videos. But do you want to intro our book?
Yes. So, today, you guys, we are going to be, we already read a book by Nikita, is the author, and it's called This Love Hurts. And boy, man, this book was painful in some parts. It was just really, really painful, but amazing nonetheless. And so I'm really excited to talk about it. And so, you know how we do, Charles and I just banter back and forth and kind of talk about our thoughts on it. So, Charles, you want to go ahead and give a little bit of a synopsis without spoilers? And we kind of try to talk without
Mm-hmm.
spoilers and then spoilers, but it's kind of difficult sometimes when you're getting into a book. So just know that we will go into spoilers. So if that's a concern for you and you like to go into books blind, maybe go and read it and then come back and check this out afterwards. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I will have to say it is a dark romance and it does have a contents warning. So do take warning of that contents warning if you're anything at all worried. But if you want to know specifics, I would definitely say stick around. We will talk about all the nitty gritty if you want to know what some of the triggers and some of the tropes that are involved in this book are. But essentially, we follow Addison and Kane, I believe is the hero's name.
Cool.
Cole.
Cool.
It's Cole. Addison and Cole. So Addison is some year in college. She has her
Mm-hmm.
best friend who is dating this guy. The best friend basically convinces her, "Hey, let's go out to this party at my boyfriend's whatever place." So they all go.
Mm-hmm.
They have a great time. You can tell there's something a little bit off with Addison. She's a little bit more reserved and a little bit more on the shy side, if you can say a little bit. So they go to this party and they have a great time, except Addison wakes up next to the body of her best friend's boyfriend and she's covered in his blood. And
Mm-hmm.
now that boyfriend's older brother is trying to figure out who actually killed his
Yes,
brother, and
that's right.
Addison is our main suspect. So that's a glimmer. That's only like the first 5 chapters, I would say. Like that's
Yes,
not even covering. I'm like, don't let those first 5 chapters fool you.
because
It
it
gets
starts
pretty
off
dark from
there.
there.
Yeah,
But what are
it
your
starts.
Taji? What are your first non-spoilery thoughts?
So in the beginning, so this book was recommended. Charles and I go back and forth. And so first of all, I want to say hi to Felicia. She is on. So hey, good to see you. So this was we go back and forth with our recommendations, and I recommend a book and Charles recommends a book, and we kind of talk back and forth. And Charles was like, "Have you heard of this book?" And I was like, "No, nothing." He's like, "You love dark romances. I'm telling you, this is like on make give you whiplash. Like you need to check it out." I'm like, "Okay, Charles, all right." And I started reading it, and the first 5 chapters, I was like, Charles, really? I was like, I'm not that I was bored, but I was like, where are we going? There's a lot of backstory. You're giving me a lot of detail. Like, I know you got to fill stuff in and get me going. But I was like, at first, I was like, it's not very dark at all. And then all of a sudden, like you're in a haunted mansion, you turn down this hallway, and you're like, what the heck just happened? And it goes south so fast, and it gets dark really fast. And I don't have any triggers, and I don't shock very easily. And this book was wow, this there were some really hard parts. And the reason I love dark romance, and I've said this before, I really like arcs and I like character developments. And I love to see how an author can take you from this heroine or hero did this to, they bullied this person or did these things to their, suspected love interest or whatever. And how do you go from him doing that to them having an HEA at the end? And I like how are you going to make that sort of connection and get us there? And I love to see that path on how authors take that. And so this is like definitely no exception because the path that she takes to get us from him suspecting that she murdered his beloved brother to them having an HEA was just like mind blowing. And this is her debut novel. Like, so she's not, this is her, she's a college student, and this is her first book out of the gate. And I was like, well, if you're hitting it out of the park like this, I can't wait to see what you do next. Right? What are your thoughts, Charles? What do you want to add to that?
Talk about like a little bit how I found this author. There's this group on Facebook called like the Smut Hood, where they basically talk about all things books, really high spice and all of that, which this book definitely was. It was really high on the spice scale.
For sure.
But I read it and I was just so drawn to it. I didn't even know it was her debut when I read it. I was like, oh, I heard it looks good. Looks like good. And then I read it and you just get sucked in. And the book is pretty long. It's over 400 pages. But I flew through that book. And then I read a couple of her other books, which I think her next books are like more in an interconnected series. And we can talk more about that as we go on. But
interconnected to this or separate, like a different world?
It's separate. So This Love Hurts is his own story. And then there's, I think, A Poison Throne, which is a reverse harem retelling of Snow White. And the heroine's best friend in that book gets a spinoff in her own series. So those two are connected. This one's completely standalone. But I absolutely loved it. It was intense.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how dark it went, because I even warned you. I was like, those first 5 chapters really make it feel like it's like a contemporary romance. Like you don't really feel like anything bad is gonna happen. You're like, oh, this is nice. This is comfy. This is like gonna be nice and cozy. And then as soon as the hero is first introduced, aka the brother, oh my goodness, like you are in a world. It's just like, I just love how she did that. She eased you in, got you to know Addison and really invest in her as a character. And just watching, like you said about the arc with Dark Romance, her arc is one of the most strenuous and really heartbreaking arcs that I've ever seen in a dark romance. I mean, like, it goes really dark for her, and even before her HEA, without spoilers, of course, but she gets pretty dark, pretty even lower. Before they get their happily ever after, and I was surprised.
They have to work at it, and even like I mean, when you talk about like making characters work at it, like they have to work at it, because you've got to overcome all this trauma, you know. So this book also, like, and Charles mentioned very astutely at the beginning, she gives you an author note at the very beginning with trigger warnings, and she's like, "Do not pass go. Do not take this lightly. Like, if you are sensitive at all, like if you are, you know, going to be offended, do not read this book." She's like, you know, I can't tell you strongly enough. And it needs to be there for a reason for sensitive readers, because it deals with trauma. It deals with sexual abuse. It deals with mental health, suicide, depression,
drug use.
You know, there are a lot of different themes that, you know, come up naturally. And anytime somebody goes through a traumatic past and experiences long-term trauma, their go-to, you know, when they don't know how to handle that, is drugs and alcohol. So I love that that was kind of brought into the play, into the mix in this conversation, and then how she sought to overcome that and what that looked like for her. So there's a lot that this book covers, but it doesn't shy away from it. It draws your attention to it, but it does it in a sensitive way and in a way that seems realistic. But at the same time, like, you know, like Charles said, I could not put this book down. I read it in a day and like breezed through it and was interested every step, because sometimes my attention will wax and wane on a book. If it's like, you know, if it's not capturing all of my attention, I might be half-heartedly paying attention. And in this instance, I was just there. Like, I wanted every word on that page. I wanted to make sure I sucked it in and got it, you know. And there is a little bit of a whodunit as well. Like when you're trying to understand the dynamics of the characters. All characters are relevant. There are no real secondary sort of miscellaneous characters. Everybody has a part to play in this story. So it just kept you going. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I agree, especially when you mention about all the different experiences that the characters go through that could be a little bit more taboo and more sensitive in nature. I love that it did show it on page, but it never was exploiting those scenes and making them super over dramatic, super over the top, super extra in any type of way. It was just very realistically, I would say not 100% realistically portrayed, but it was portrayed in a way that made sense for the story. And you were reading it going like, okay, this is, we need to see this because this is applicable to that character and their arc, especially because we get flashbacks for
And
Addison's character and a little bit of Cole throughout the book. And those experiences, I think you mentioned this with like T.M. Frazier. It's like, why is it when you couch it in a romance, it becomes troubling when you see these scenes depicted on page? But in horror and other various other genres, they can depict a sexual assault scene and no one will bat an eye. And but oh yeah, it was necessary for the character to go through. And
right.
I would say too about the writing, she has a really great knack for characters. Like you immediately you're drawn into Addison's voice, and Cole has a very distinctive voice too. That you're just like, I just need to find out more about these characters. Which I was like, for a debut, for how well it reads,
Fantastic.
I was floored. Like the steam, the push and pull between those two characters, because it is a little bit. I don't know. I want to say what type of dynamic it is, because that is a little bit spoiler. But you know, it's a whodunit, and she's basically the main suspect right now because she wakes up covered in his blood, in the dead brother's blood. But absolutely phenomenal. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars.
I did too. 5 out of 5 star for sure. It was fantastic. I loved every ounce of it. And, a telltale sign for me is that as soon as I finished the book, I immediately dove in to see if she had any other books because it was written in such a way that other main characters, like Ophelia and his other guy, Alex, I think was his name, that they could have their stories and a book. And so Ophelia does have a spin-off book, but it's written by LK or LF Reed. It's written by another author.
Yeah.
So Ophelia is an assassin, and it's her story, but it's written by, I think her name is LF Reed. LK Reed, and it's called Ricochet. So that's her story. Now, Nikita does say that Alexander's book, Another Character, is going to be coming after this. And it was supposed to be in 2021. So obviously we're in 2022. So she's a little bit behind on that. And I don't see anything. Maybe if she has a website. I didn't go. Did you check to see if she had a website to see if she had anything up on it yet?
I don't think she has a website. She has an Instagram page. I think she's focusing on the spinoff to the Poison Throne book. So she's following that. I think that's going to be a trilogy. So I think she's probably going to focus on finishing that. Yeah. I think those books I think they're a little bit more popular than This Love Hurts, and those are not as dark as This Love Hurts. They're dark. They're definitely dark, but they're not nearly as dark as This Love Hurts. So I think she's going to finish that and then circle back. And I know she's working on audios too, because I asked her. I was like, Nikita, get your stuff on audio because these books are banging. I was like, I usually am an audiobook first person, but I stopped everything. I was like, okay, Alexa, read this to me.
Okay, I was surprised.
This is so good.
Yeah, like anytime I ask you to read a book that's not on audiobook, you're like, we're addicted to audio. It has to be on audiobook. And so when you brought this one up, that it wasn't on audio, I was like, what, Charles? But I can see why it is. It's so fantastic. It's so fantastic. So, and so just to go back, Alexander and Ophelia are Cole's friends, and we see them towards the end. And they are mentioned quite a lot. And so you definitely, when they're mentioned, you're like, oh, these are interesting characters. You want to get their backstory and you want to, see what they have to say. So we'll see if she comes out with it and puts it in. So we got a comment. Totally agree. I read a lot of grim, dark fantasy, lots of rape, murder. No one blinks. But if you say something, you read about dark, yes. For whatever reason.
Put in dark romance, everyone criticizes it.
Immediately. And I think dark romance gets like a bad rap or whatever, because there's dubious consent and non-consent situations. And I think because now, we want to see strong heroines and, and we don't want to see, people treated in that way, but it just makes such an interesting arc and an interesting storyline that, I find that they're much more engaging, as opposed to in a contemporary romance when you're, having misunderstandings and miscommunications. And if you guys would just talk to each other, you could have solved and resolved this problem much more quickly. Or in a fantasy romance or a dark fantasy, we're trying to save the world from this evil, thing that's trying to take everybody out. It just makes it much more rich, in my opinion. So,
yeah. And I think too, it's a little bit, I can see some of the criticisms going like romanticizing some problematic elements, like dub or non-con, or making that into like a cool, like, oh, like that's so romantic between those two characters or whatever. I think a lot of people they think like if you read these dark romances and you love dark romance, they automatically think you condone a lot of the things that you read in these books. I'm like, oh, this person's like cool and like da 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 with all this stuff, and they're okay with reading it. Like, no, it's fantasy. It's separated from our reality. You're in a different world. Because I do think one of the things, like, I think you can agree to this as well with dark romance. An author has to make the darkness make sense in their story. Like, they can go through all the dark elements, but if it doesn't feel like it's actually meaningful to the story, you're like, okay, why did I have to read a character getting graphically assaulted when it really wasn't necessary to the rest of the story?
Right.
So I think that's one of the main criticisms, but at the end of the day, it's all fiction. Like, if you don't want to read it, just don't read it, but don't yuck someone's yum. I'm like, if it's not for you, dark romance is not for everyone. Not contemporary romance is not for everyone. Historical romance is not for everyone.
There's something out there that you will enjoy. So like go and pick up that, because you will find something that you will love, that's different than this. And the thing that's really interesting when you talked about it, seeing it on page, it's very interesting. I wonder like how the author writes it and how they handle that situation. So for those of you that have been following us for a while, we reviewed some months ago Lydia Michaels' Hurt, and there is a graphic depiction of a sexual assault in that book. Okay. And I'm bringing that up because in Nikita, there are depictions of assaults in this book.
A lot,
right? And for whatever reason, when I read it in Nikita, I wasn't as offended and upset and as bothered as when I read that scene in Lydia Michaels' Hurt. And I think you and I even talked about it because we're like, why is this even here? Like, why does she write this? It was so disturbing. And I don't know if it was because of the level of detail or the depiction of violence, because the assaults here, they still were violent, right? But it just didn't bother me as much as it did in that book. And I'm trying to sort out why I feel differently about that. You read both books.
I feel like, especially with the Lydia Michaels situation, the rest of the book, a lot of the darker elements never really happen on page. And so like you're reading this book and it happens about halfway through the book. And you're kind of like trying to figure out, okay, where is she going with this? Why are we reading the scene? And the fact that it was done in so much detail, that's why I think it made it more exploitive in nature. It was just kind of like, okay, I want you to get this impact of what this character went through and make you read it. But it wasn't necessarily considering the overall grand narrative. Because like, I remember when we talked about it, the book was like a standalone, but then there's actually more books, but there's no information on whether when or what time these books are coming out. So you're kind of left like going like, maybe this would have been resolved in later books if she was going to like write more of the books in this world. But I think with Nikita, it makes sense in the world. Like you understand the dynamic with that one character and her parents, and you really kind of see the twisted web that she weaves. So it feels like it's a part of the story. And it would make sense that you would see it.
Yeah.
It would make sense that you would see it in the book, so you're not like going like, okay, like it's like imagine if you read the first 5 chapters and then the 6th chapter was boom, some character getting graphically assaulted. You're like, wait, what?
Right.
But no, it makes sense in the story.
You're 100% right. I think in Hurt, it was like shock value. We were seeing every like nitty gritty up and close. And it just made me uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And here, it was, I'm explaining this to you and you're getting it because you need to understand what's all happening to this character and why this character reacts and does what they do and, you
What
know,
she does.
responds in the ways that she does. It's all essential to her story or her narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I sort of I would have liked to see, and it's not even a big deal, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, Mia, Addison's best friend, is a integral part of the story early on, right? So so when
Mm-hmm.
Addison moves to New York, and I think they go to NYU, she bumps into Mia, and she like literally she bumps into her, spills her coffee all over her, and they become fast friends. And Addison doesn't have any place to live, and Mia sort of takes her in and lets her stay with her and really
Mm-hmm.
supports her, you know, ensures that she's got clothes to wear, and just she really just steps up as a good friend, and she's very an integral part of her life. And Mia is the one that meets Nico, and Nico is the boyfriend, and he's the one who ultimately dies. But you know, when it sort of comes out that something happened to Nico, Mia is sort of MIA after that. She's gone and she's missing. Well, no, she's not missing. She goes to LA to live with her family. And we don't really hear any more from her. And it was like she was so integral and such a close friend. And then all of a sudden she's just gone and we don't hear any more about her.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that she left
There's gonna be
room
another book.
for another book because towards,
Yeah.
you know, the end, it is mentioned that there's some stuff going on with Mia. And so I would like to
Mm-hmm.
see how she was impacted by the death of Nico and then what she ultimately does and how she sort of gets her HEA, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like those beginning chapters really were a great introduction to show the heroine's world. Because like
Mm-hmm.
when the mystery starts to happen, the whodunit aspects happen, it becomes very limited in scope. Like these two main characters are usually together all the time throughout, I would say like 90% of the book. So I kind of get it. It doesn't make sense for Mia to be there, but maybe like you said, I think she's gonna build out this world into
Mm-hmm.
a set of books, and this will be like her dark mafia-esque romance kind of
Yeah.
kind of world that she's playing in. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really liked her. I really liked her best friend, and I think it would be nice to see like if those two reunite after the events. I wonder what her
Mm-hmm.
book would be. I feel like it would take place before, during, and then it'll follow up as kind of like an epilogue to what happened with those characters
Yeah.
afterwards. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna be in those DMs. I'm gonna find out, you guys. I will find out for
So you
you
can give us
all.
the tea. Once you find out, you got to give us the tea and share it. Now, the other thing that I did like that, and I
Mhm.
was a little bit worried in the beginning because we know that Addison has a sordid past that she's run from. And now, you
Mhm.
know, Mia has tried to delve into her past and she's real cagey about it and doesn't really share too much
Mhm.
information. But we do know she has nightmares. And in the nightmares, we get a little snippet of a flashback of what happened, but we don't get
Mhm.
much more. And so she was kind of going back and forth whenever Addison would sleep and have a nightmare. You get a little snippet of what was happening. You know, she was being cagey about past. And so I was like, oh, please don't do the split timeline where we're going back and forth, because that can get a little bit
Mhm.
confusing and it can get a little bit messy. And she didn't do that. She actually got to a point where we got like that, you know, we set the stage. Then she got to a point where
And
she's
then
like,
she
here's
went
Addison.
into it.
This is all her past. And so it was all laid out. And
Mhm.
now we're back in the present. And now we're moving forward with the, you know, the last three quarters of the story. And I thought that that was a really good way to
Mhm.
handle it because it kept you in the timeline. You knew exactly what was going on. You didn't get lost. You didn't get confused. And it flowed really nicely. So again, I feel like she did a
She's a really well
fantastic job.
constructed novel.
Mm-hmm.
It's surprising for a debut. This like I wouldn't even think like some seasoned writers could write a better story than this. It was like I would the only reason why I would say you probably wouldn't like it if it's just dark romance is not your thing. Because like this is like on I would say this is on the deeper end. Like don't read this book if you're new to the genre. Like read some
Yeah,
like kind of like
this is not
light.
where you
I'm like
start.
this is like up there with like your Charity B authors and stuff like that, and
Yeah,
all that those type of authors. So like you know, or Amo Jones. So like
it's
you know
definitely
they're
more
on the uber dark end.
mm-hmm.
But I think it was absolutely phenomenal. Like it was the steam was on point, the characters were on point, the plot was good. My only caveat was how we arrived at the HEA. I wish we had a little bit more time with Addison, and we got
I
to see
agree.
a little bit more of her recovery.
Yeah.
Non-spoilery.
Yeah.
I'm like trying not to give it away, but you know what I mean. Like I would like to. I just want like maybe like 50 more pages, just to watch her go back.
Yeah.
Because I think the hero has a nice redemption arc, but I really wanted to see more from Addison and see her grow back and kind of see her a little bit more whole by the end of the book. But that's just like a little caveat. Not like something I would take off a star for, but I think it's just a sign that she could have made this book 1,000 pages and I would have been thoroughly entertained by the
The
way
whole
she was
time.
writing the story.
And I agree 100%. It was, I felt a tiny, tiny bit, but again, not enough to take a star off or even a half a star. Like it was a tiny bit rushed at the end. I felt like, and even with the redemption arc, I would have liked to see just a tiny bit more of, what that looked like, the time together, the recovery, like all of that. Like I felt like we needed just maybe an extended epilogue to the epilogue or something like that, just a bit more of that.
Yeah,
And I feel
just a
like
little
it
bit
would have made it
more.
more rich. It would have made it like a more
Mm-hmm.
richer experience. Now, and the other thing is that it kind of made me towards the end, and for those of you that are Pepper Winters fans, and if you've read her, what's her Captive one?
Is it the Tears of Tessa one or the
Tears of Tess,
Quintessence?
the tear,
Okay, Tears of Tess.
quintessentially cute, Tears of Tess, quintessentially Q, like that
Sure.
whole series. There was a little part in here that was reminiscent of quintessentially Q, and like it had a Pepper Winters-esque kind of feel to it. And once you read it, if you guys are fans of that, but again, don't jump into the water, don't jump into the deep end. Stick your toe in first and be prepared, because there is some, eye raising kind of clutch your pearls type moments that happen in this book for sure. But it is all worth it, and it's so good, and I just can't speak highly enough of it. It's so good. And so, do
It's
you want to do
absolutely
our
amazing.
so do our ratings? What did you think on? And I like to rate it according to overall rating, spice, and angst. So, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I would say 5 overall, 5 for Steam, and 4 for Angst, or 4.5. Just because the
I
ending. Just I can take off like half a point, but that's just me being like a little bit picky. But how about you?
I think overall 5, a definite 5 for spice, and angst. Yeah, I think it's like
Yeah,
a
I mean, it was pretty angsty.
it
It was
was
at
like a
least a 4.
4.75, it was a 5. It's pretty angsty. There's a lot going on. So it's just overall, like, hands down, it'll be interesting to see if I put this on my top standalones for 2022, because this is up there. It's really solid. It's a solid read. Good pick,
It's really
Charles. You
good.
did good.
I gave it a 5, and it doesn't even have an audiobook. And I was like addicted to this. Like, you trust me, if you like this, you like her other stuff.
I'm gonna
Poison
have.
from her Snow White retelling.
Mhm.
Oh my god, the way she remixes it, and then like you get different POVs, it's so good. I loved it.
Ooh,
Like if
fantastic.
you
So I'm
like
gonna
her heroines, like she carries that through her other
Oh, she does.
books.
You see
Hmm.
similarities there. So I'll
Hmm.
have to go. And I saw that there weren't. It looks like she has about 4 other books
5
aside from
books?
5 books.
Yeah,
Is it?
3. I think 3, 3 or 5, 3 or 4.
It's not
I
that
can
many.
check
So
Goodreads right now. Yeah,
I
she's
checked it.
pretty new. I think this came out this Love Hurts just came out in 2020.
Yeah. So I'm
Let me
definitely going to
see.
go back
Yeah,
and read more from her. Um, and then, like you said, she's got an Instagram page, so I want to interact with her on Instagram just to see. I hope, and if she puts this out on audiobook, I'll go back and reread it on audio and hear it on audio,
she
because it
said
would
she's
be.
working on it. She has 5 books that are currently, no, 4 that are out, including This Love Hurts.
Can you
But her books are
imagine?
pretty big.
Yeah, they're pretty big. Can you imagine
They're,
Teddy
they're
Hamilton
chunkers.
narrating Cole's part?
I want Troy Duran to do it, not because I interviewed him. Go check that interview out on my channel.
I know,
But
right?
I vote for him, or maybe Zach. I
Or
vote for
maybe Zach.
those two.
Zach.
Maybe
Is
with
that Zach?
Andy Arndt. Zachary
Andy,
Weber, yeah.
oh, yes, yes. They're a
That would
dynamic.
be.
Look
I was
at, we
like,
got it all
you
worked out.
guys, we got all planned. Just make it happen. Just make it happen.
Yes,
But
yes.
yes, Nikita
Very.
is the only thing. A little gripe about her author name. It's so hard to like. If you search it on Amazon, it's literally so difficult to find her books. If you
Oh,
don't
is it?
remember the title,
Oh,
because like it's Nikita. That's like there's a TV show called Nikita. Where you
yeah.
have to add the period at the end, and then you may find. I was like,
You
I love
find
that.
it. So
It's
just
like
make sure you
Nikita
know that.
period. You have to
Yeah.
add that period. But shall we go into spoilers? Do we want to
Uh,
go? Do you guys want us to go into spoilers, or should we keep it
I think we should keep it kind of like let people like
keep
read
it
it for
kind of
themselves. Like, if
mysterious?
you like want spoilers, we'll do it. But I think, I think we've talked enough about it without having
Yeah,
spoilers to keep it a little bit
maybe we could
mysterious.
just go over the. We already talked about a lot of the trigger warnings, right?
Yeah, we talked about the
Yeah.
trigger warnings, and we talked about making sure that you read that up front and you know what you're getting yourself into. Um,
Mm-hmm. I would
so
definitely say if you're uncomfortable with any of those things being on page and I would say not explicit, but it is in detail, then
mhm,
I would not recommend that you read it.
yeah, for
I would
sure. But
not.
it's good. It's good though.
It's
So you can
good.
put all that aside. You will thoroughly enjoy this, right? So, do you want to? Do we have more to talk about this book, or do you want to talk about? I thought maybe we could talk about what we're going to be doing upcoming and kind of clue people in on things that we've got on deck, things to look out
Okay.
for. Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
so, are we going to do a reading sprint, Charles? Do you think?
We are going to do one. We just have to figure out the date, but that will be coming. I think we're gonna make it dark romance
Base,
themed
yeah.
esque. And I
Hmm.
think me and Taji talked about like what can you expect more from Addicted to Audio. We're going to like do it our own way. We're gonna throw up a live show when we have a book that we want to discuss, that we have an author that we want to come on, we want to talk to. So keep your eyes peeled because we're just gonna be dropping stuff. And you have to be
Gotta be
getting it
on
while
it.
it's
Gotta
hot.
be ready
You
to
gotta be
speak it.
on it, or you'll miss it. Like you'll be like, how these people already like released like 10 videos? I'm like, you've been sleeping on us. Make sure
We
you
do
turn
have
those
some fun.
notifications on so you can always in the know.
Yes, and we do have some fun things coming. We've got some author interviews planned. We do have some reading sprints planned. So, like Charles said, tune in and be subscribed. And we don't know whether we're going to drop it here or on Charles's channel. So it'll be either or. And so I'm really excited about the things that we have coming. And it's going to be all things dark romance because this is where you come to get that content. So
We'll throw in some other things every now and then, but like
we do, we
I'm
do.
like we do like a dark romance.
Yes,
Like
yes.
I literally thought with This Love Hurts, I was like, filleting a person alive is like my new love language. And if you read the book, you know the scene I'm talking about.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez. I'm just like, you know what? This is we say, and she says, like, in the book, she says, I hope that you love dark romance as much as I do. And she's like, happy reading, enjoy it. And I'm like, Nikita, we love you, girl. We love dark romance as much as you do. So filet is my love language too. I'm gonna be on it. So it's all good.
Like your common excuse for like any angst, you're like, okay, why are you dealing with this miscommunication? Another character in a Pepper Winters book got abducted and kidnapped, and you're just mad because like he didn't reply back to your message. So
Exactly. Or he
you're
said,
like character by.
like, go deal with the real issues. This chick over here is being trafficked. She's got issues. I'm gonna hang with her and help her and see her arc. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. And
Or like you trying to guess like the tragic backstory behind the character. Like, oh, they probably this happened or this happened or this happened. They're like, no, they just got stood up for a date.
they got
And you're like, that's it?
exactly. Or like, don't you love it when we like read a book, Charles? And I was like, I thought this was gonna happen and this was gonna happen. And you're like, oh my god, you've been reading too much dark romance. Like, settle down. This is Snow
Remember the
White.
Megan Quinn one? You thought it was gonna be reverse harem.
I totally thought it was going to be a reverse harem.
And you were sadly disappointed. You're like, nope, sorry.
Was that the Megan, what was her name? Megan, the book that
I
we
forgot
read
the
with
name of the book.
the hockey guy.
It was a hockey romance.
And I thought it was going to be a reverse harem because there were like 5 hockey guys and one chick that they picked up on the road and took to a cabin. That sounds like a perfect setup for a reverse harem. That's literally the setup for the book. Her car breaks down and it's like in the snowy Alaskan wilderness, whatever. And there's 5 hockey dudes and she comes and stays with them for like, she's stranded and it's forced proximity. So like, okay, what do we expect is going to happen?
This is the signs of when you read too much dark romance. You see things that no other readers would be able to pick up on. You're like, hold on, wait, but if he did this, but
That'd be interesting if he did that.
I'm intrigued. You're like, give me that story.
Exactly. That's the book I want. I want that backstory. I still, though, for whatever reason, I still want to read the second book because I did like her writing, and I do want to read the second book in that series. Megan, whatever, I can't remember her name.
Oh, you like it. It's more angsty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's more angsty.
I love it. It's a good hockey romance. Like, who doesn't?
It's good. That's why I like mixing up genres when you have like people who are really good at the genre that you write. Because like Megan Quinn, she's funny but steamy, and like Nikita is dark and twisted, but also is very smart, and how it kind of melds all those two things together. It's like I think I just love good stories and good storytellers, no matter what genre that they're in. If you make it make sense, then I'm like, okay, I vibe with you.
Agreed.
You're an author.
Agreed. And she did it in a way that was very believable and like made sense, and you weren't like feeling like that sounds crazy.
I'm like, you better get out of there. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, this was really, really good, guys. You guys are going to love it. So, put in the comments below and let us know if you read it, or once you've read it, come back and tell us what you thought of it and what star you gave it. And then, as is always the case, if you have recommendations for us or you have a book that you would like to see us review, put it in the comments below and we will happily jump on that. Now, we are addicted to audio, so we would prefer that it's an audio book available on audiobook. But if it comes, desperate times call for desperate measures. We will go to Alexa, as Charles says, that robotic voice. Alexa doesn't bother me. Me and Alexa have made friends, and she's probably listening to me right now. She's going to start talking in a minute.
She's probably like, the things that Taji reads, y'all.
Exactly. So let's see. Do you guys know
I heard of that
Equity series by... I have not heard. I've heard of KB Rose, and I've heard good things about her writing, but I haven't read that series. Have you read that one, Charles?
No, they're not. I don't think they're on audio.
It dark?
They're long books. They're dark.
They're dark.
They're dark.
I gotta add. I'll add it to the ever-growing list of
TBR books that we like have to get to. Like I just gave up the point with KU. I love KU. But now I'm just like, I just rather buy the book and just like have it. So like, and whenever I feel the need or inkling to read it, it's there. Like you go, oh, okay, I have the book right here. Okay, let's go. Because like I'm like one track. I'm like all over the place when it comes to reading. I'm like, as soon as I put it in my KU lineup, I'm like, I don't want to read you now.
Yeah.
Let's go buy this book then.
Let's go get this other one instead. No, it's and as the list grows, I go down and look at the things that are on the bottom of the list. I'm like, well, I'm not even really interested in that anymore. So I have to take stuff off, because I keep adding things to it. And I do go through books really quickly, but I keep adding stuff on top of it. And so,
Yeah, I feel like you go through books quickly when you enjoy them. That's the key thing.
Yes.
It goes by quicker when you're like, okay, now this is a 4 or 5 star read. Okay. Let's go, Alexa. Let's make this work.
And I feel like when it's a 4 or 5 read, like Nikita, it goes so fast. Like you just don't even think. Whereas like, you can have another book that's on audiobook and you're not really into it, and it just drags along, and I just didn't want to do. But this was it was a pleasant surprise. And also they have an alternate cover. Did you see that there's another cover for this? I like the other cover.
Oh no.
Yeah, go
I
on
like that cover.
alternate cover. The alternate cover is really nice. It is it has Cole on it.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
pretty.
it's a paperback.
Yeah. Well, this one is a softback or, as well. So I don't know what the difference is. So
I don't love it as much.
you don't? You like this?
I like that because it's a little bit more. It's like not the cover I would expect.
No, it's not. This kind of gives me ballerina vibes,
Yeah,
like a dark
like a
swan kind of,
yeah,
you know.
like a Black Swan S
Like
vibe. And
exactly.
the other cover makes it look like, okay, this is more like your standard really dark romance, and it gives
Correct.
mafia vibes, which I
Correct.
don't think you would get in the other cover. Which, okay, is that a spoiler?
That's not. I mean,
Technically,
who said this
it's
is mafia
technically
esque?
it's a mafia esque.
It's mafia adjacent,
Yeah,
right?
we'll go with that.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's a spoiler. And I think we're not giving too much of it away, and so I
No, trust me, we haven't. We just told you some of the key elements.
we didn't get into it. We didn't get in. No, it goes deep, deep,
It
deep, deep.
goes. I was like, what have you done to me, Nikita? Now I'm like normalizing all this stuff in this book that I shouldn't be normalizing.
Yes. But like I said before, just because I enjoy, watching a movie that has like bank heists on it doesn't mean I condone bank
You're
heists.
not like you're
No,
gonna go out and rob a bank.
absolutely not. It's entertainment. It's like, like I love like Game of Thrones, and it doesn't mean that I like, want to live in a world where dragons reign supreme and are like destroying cities and like, laying waste to things. No, it's for
That's
entertainment and
true.
it's fun. So just like I read these things, it's for entertainment and it's just an interesting kind of take on things. But obviously, we don't condone any of this in real life. And I was like saying to
Exactly.
somebody else, I was like, and if I were like a person in reality and this, I'd be like, oh hell no.
I'll be like, heck no, I'm going to LA with my best friend. Stay away from me. I
Yep,
got a restraining order. You
yep,
come near me, I will
yep,
go get a gun and we'll solve this the old fashioned way. I'm like,
yep.
don't come anywhere near me.
No, no, we're not doing this. But in a book, I'm like, why are you running from him? Let him catch you.
It's like, do you remember? Have you seen those TikToks where like you have like the captive, and they see the captor, and they're like, and they put back on like their handcuffs and their blindfolds. You're like, okay, I choose to stay.
Yes, I did see that one. Yes, yes, I did. I'm here. I'm here. That's that. Yes, for sure. That's this for sure. Oh my god.
That's what
That's
dark romance makes you do. You're like, in real life, I would not condone these things, but in a book, I'm like, okay, are you gonna stay? Okay, okay, where we going with this? Okay,
yeah.
don't leave.
Don't leave.
Okay, if you do leave, make sure it's like a whole chase thing because that's interesting too.
See, it deepens and the plot thickens, right? And it
I
thickens. Oh, we
know.
love it. We love it. It all brings the angst to it. If we want to step up the angst, there we go. So I think any closing remarks that you want to say, because I think we've said everything that we want to say about this.
Mm,
Anything else you want to add other than go and read it right now? Trust us, you're going to love it.
absolutely, it's on KU. So like, if you have KU, it's not gonna cost you anything extra to get this book. Like, read it through Alexa, do your text to speech if you don't want to actually read it with your eyeballs. But trust me, I give you like a chapter and you'll be hooked. Like it's that engrossing. Like it's really good. But definitely always check your trigger warnings, or you can ask me and Taji like privately through like DMs on Instagram or in the comment section down below
Mm-hmm.
if you want like nitty gritty specifics
Mm-hmm.
of what happens in the book, because I don't want to recommend you go read a dark romance and it triggers you. So if there's anything that we mentioned that concerns you, just reach out to us.
Yeah,
We'll give you the tea if you want the tea before going into this book.
exactly.
How about
Exactly.
you, Taji?
We got it's voyeuristic entertainment, kind of like watching neighbors argue through the curtains. I'm all like,
Yep.
what's that?
With popcorn, with your drink, and you're like, what did the person say? Hold on, get the binoculars. Can you read lips?
Yes, yes, I'm all up in it. Um, yeah, no, my closing remark is just that I really think so. Here's the thing, and I encourage like if you're gonna dip your toe in and you're gonna try this, right?
Mhm.
give it a couple chapters, get into it. But I also say don't stop midway through either, because then you don't get the full experience because you haven't allowed the arc to occur. So it's like if you're going to do it and you've checked out the trigger warnings and you're comfortable, do it and stay in it to the end, because you need to see that, where it all sort of ends up to get the holistic picture of everything. And then you can give your commentary. Because like if you only stop in like the first quarter of the book, yeah, you're going to be like, this was terrible, this was horrible, I don't see how this was ever going to, because you didn't get there, you didn't allow it to do its thing. So
the arc to continue.
If
And
you can,
I think we can say it pays off. To add on to your comments, it pays off in the end.
it does.
So like, don't worry. Like she definitely brings it home in a satisfactory way.
Yes.
Like you're going through darkness, but like there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like don't walk into light. I'm using a metaphor. I just want to put that out there.
But that was great, Charles. So that's really all that we have today. And like I said, we've got new and exciting things coming. So please subscribe so that you can be notified when those things are coming out, and leave comments in the comment below in terms of anything that you want to see us review, and anything that is there, we'll go ahead and talk through it and figure out how we're going to, put it in the order of all the things that we are going to be reading coming up. So that is all that we have for today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.
Bye, everyone.